Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Kicking It with Karan. Today I have Zoe from Red Bull Racing. Hi Zoe, thank you so much for talking to me for the next couple of minutes.
Hi, good to be here.
Cool, cool. So for my audience, why don't you give a little background on what you do at Red Bull and yeah, the cool job you have. Maybe you're one of the people in the background picture that you have. So who knows?
That whether I'm one of those people back there is a secret that never shall be shared. Um, they like to stay anonymous. They're very secretive. So my job here is actually head of strategic partnerships. So I look after a team, which in turn looks after all of our partners for the Oracle Red Bull Racing team. And we're trying to find a patchwork and a community of partners that deliver not only, cool marketing opportunities with us, but also help us to make our car go faster, help us to improve our business efficiency and effectiveness. And we have a huge amount of fun sort of working with new technologies, new technology providers, and businesses that really try to help understand the challenges we face and bring new solutions and tools to help us overcome those challenges. Or obviously Oracle being a prime example of that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. I mean, obviously this year is a little bit different than last when Oracle was just a little name on the car and this year being the title sponsor. So how does sort of the nature of the strategic partnership change from just being a sponsor to sort of being a title, on the team name?
So we as a team, we've always had what we call innovation partners, and we sort
Mhm.
of differentiate innovation partners from your sort of traditional commercial sponsorship, because an innovation partner is a business that we work with really hand in glove to kind of solve a problem. So whether that is a systems problem, it could be some software, it could be an engineering challenge, it could be all manner of different things. And we have a lot of different types of innovation partners. So some of them are providing hardware, some of them are delivering, machine tools into our factory so that we can manufacture things. But with Oracle, we spent all of last year with really investigating their suite of technologies and looking at how some of those, particularly cloud-based technologies and AI and ML tools can help us to solve some of the really interesting and new challenges in our business, and also make some existing challenges that we previously had solutions for more efficient. And I think this is something that, particularly the cloud infrastructure part of that relationship has enabled us to be a little bit more conscientious, a little bit more flexible, and transfer the way that we use certain types of infrastructure from on premise to off premise to be more efficient, more sustainable, more cost effective, and all of those good things.
Got
So
it.
we were going on this journey together last year to kind of optimize and find some really cool solutions together to problems in some cases we didn't even know we had, but in some cases that engineering were presenting, and we needed to find a quick solution.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand the behind the scenes sort of work that goes into actually putting a car on the track. And can you sort of maybe talk about a few examples where again this is not just a sticker on a car or whatever. It's really truly a technology partnership, right? So are there some interesting tidbits that you can talk about in terms of the types of technology and the things that it helps you, from everything from sort of car design perhaps to race decisions and so on and so forth?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have like a really broad portfolio now of innovation partners, and
Mhm.
obviously Oracle now being the biggest of those. But we work with different partnerships all the way through from that initial design and concepting stage. Where actually, we work with Siemens, who we've been with since day one,
Yep.
on the CAD software and the very basics of how we create those 3D shapes in the digital world, all the way through. We have partners in simulation, we have partners that help us to improve the efficiency of how we take that through to manufacture, both in inspection and in manufacturing the parts themselves. We have lots and lots of little touch points all the way through that journey. The interesting thing, so in terms of what we've been working on with Oracle last year, one of those things that really came through was when we actually take that car to the racetrack. The bit that I guess is quite, it feels like a unique F1 challenge, because we're thinking about, when we do our pit stops and our tire strategy and all this kind of thing, but it's not that unique. So actually the simulation that we run to do that, or the algorithm that we've created to run that simulation, is called something called a Monte Carlo analysis, and it's not that different from what you would see in the finance sector data, or
Yep.
in casinos, that's why it's called the Monte Carlo analysis. It helps run millions, if not billions, of possible outcomes using the data that you know to tell you the data you don't know. So it helps us to guess, which is the best strategy to get us to the end of the race fastest with these two cars. And we used to run that on premise, and which worked well enough, but we were trying to think of other ways to do that. And actually being able to burst that into the cloud made it much more efficient, because it's much cheaper to run that infrastructure just for the time that you need it, which is really across the race weekend, when everybody's in the operations room here in the UK poring over strategy simulations and trying to make those decisions and support the team that are trackside. So previously we'd have had that infrastructure online all the time, and it's just not as efficient to do that. So we've been really benefiting from that. End of last season into this season, we've had some really interesting strategy calls. Anyone who's been watching the races, it's
I
been pretty
have.
dramatic.
Yeah.
This is one of the most tense, high pressure decision making processes that any F1 team faces. This is when it really comes down to the crunch. So it's interesting because it's not just about the journey to get there, it's about making the right decision to enable the car that you've created to do.
And Zoe, are these decisions made sort of like real time during the race, I'm guessing, but also sort of like post race, so sort of like what you would potentially do in the next race, et cetera? Like, how does that process kind of fit into that?
So there's a whole bunch of decisions we're talking about here. One of them is when we do the pit stop. So that's
Uh-huh.
a very
Real
specific
time.
process,
Yeah.
right? But as we approach the race weekend, we're taking in data from, let's say, that circuit in previous years, because although the car is different and
Mm.
maybe even the drivers were different, the historical data still has value, and it still helps to inform, what strategy has worked well there before.
Well, hopefully the track hasn't changed in those years, so.
You hope that, but sometimes the track's been resurfaced, or like we saw in Australia, they actually taken a section of the track and changed the shape of it. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
it's surprisingly, it can actually edit in a little way each time. So we have to think about what we can learn from the historical data, maybe filtering out some of those things that have changed. So which learnings are relevant and are not relevant. Then we also learn from what we do on the track on the Friday and the Saturday morning. So we have a couple of hours to test the car out. And bear in mind, we've probably got a bunch of updates. So there'll be new components on the car each week that have never seen a racetrack before. We've done all the simulation to check that they should work in theory, but we don't know that until we actually turn a wheel in anger on the track. So we capture huge amounts of data from the car on the Friday practice sessions and the Saturday morning. And this enables us to kind of inform that decision making and say, okay, well, this has validated where we expected the car to be in terms of optimum lap time, performance, how long it will survive on each type of tire, for example, what the tire degradation patterns are. We have to think about all of that, and we use all of that data. We kind of input then some known variables into that algorithm. So we go into, the qualifying session, which actually needs its own strategy, believe it or not. You want to be able to send the car out where there isn't traffic in front of it, and it's going to get a nice clean lap and a good, fast, clean lap without any other cars that are on a slow lap getting in the way. So we have to think about the race strategy for the qualifying as well as just for the race. And you go into both qualifying and the race having done millions of different simulations of how this session could come out. So you've got hopefully a plan A and a plan B for each car that you think will be the optimum solution.
I'm guessing it's also very different now, right? With, the qualifying also being sprint races and et cetera. So you don't have a lot of historical data anymore. I'm sure strategies for sprint races are very different from a traditional qualifying lap, right?
Exactly right. And we have much less testing time on track during a sprint race weekend. You have like 1 hour to shake the car down, and then you're in a sprint race qualifying on a Friday. So it really means you rely incredibly heavily on getting the simulations right and using that data to its absolute optimum. And the interesting thing is as well, with all the best laid plans, as in life, right, you can then go on the track at the weekend in the race scenario, and things could get completely thrown out the window by maybe a competitor overtaking you in an unexpected place, or maybe there's a yellow flag and you have to slow down for a section of the track, or maybe even a safety car, and all of those things will change what your best laid plans were. So you then have to rerun the simulation in real time to get the new answer.
That's incredibly interesting. I think just seeing the few races this year, it's been wild. But again, thank you so much for chatting with me, and we'll catch you all on another episode of Driven to Tehran. See you later. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.